All right. Yeah. So I am a German new media artist who lives and works in Canada since 8 winters. Most of the time, I work with physical artworks because I exhibit mostly in traditional venues, and not all of them are, equipped yet or ready to go fully digital. So I kind of tried to use a lot of physical works to convey or explore digital concepts. And some of the examples here you see, for instance, this was a piece explaining encryption by basically creating a piece, cutting it off, and using a simple algorithm to reassemble it. The next piece here shows, the use of laser cutting in my pieces, and then weaving to create several different structures. And other than that, I do a lot of digital animations and generative artwork. So I think we have the request to expand this one slide. I think that's something you guys have to do, and minimize myself. Perfect. Thanks. So today I'm talking about a new installation I'm working on during the past few months. It's basically the new normal. And what it is during the last few months, there seems to be one word arising, and I call it like the rise of an unword, and that was basically the new normal. At the end of February, I started seeing more and more headlines, defining what the normal can be or can't. And the interesting thing was that it was across countries, across the globe, and with an increasing speed. So that led, to interesting questions with defining what is normal, who chooses to be normal, or how can we define normal? And the more and more we saw that repetition, it seems to be some sort of, like a repetition priming on preparing us of what the new normal can be. And I think there was one headline from the New York Times, which was titled like "Finding Normalcy in the Abnormal." And seeing all that, I started collecting these headlines and the publications, and basically just gathering now a database of several hundred entries. And in doing that, there seems to be like kind of patterns to emerge. And if you're familiar with George Orwell's 1984, with the two ministries, or several ministries, but there was like the Ministry of Truth and Love, which was named after the exact opposite what they were for. They were basically using the media and changed history to propagate how the future and the history will look like. And the way he painted the future was quite similar to where we are now. And at the same time, yet very different. So, you see patterns right now of mass surveillance. We see the vast expansion of power of authorities. And you could see that social media was kind of like the first threat to privacy. And the Corona crisis basically brought it to another level. So I started going through these headlines and highlighting the most disturbing ones in some sort of collage. For instance, in Singapore, where robots are patrolling parks and public spaces and reminding people to social distance. In Newfoundland, they introduced a new bill which allowed you to, basically enter premises without any warrants anymore. And in India, they have artificial intelligence to check basically if you wear masks or not. And all that, kind of painted a picture towards where this is going. And it's all kind of like a slow transition. And I wanted to create an installation which kind of commemorates what appears to me at, it's like we're basically shown how we slowly surrender all of our rights and liberties And at the same time, all this news, they lack basically one thing, and that's some sort of sunset clause, basically assuring us that all these measurements are going to be reversed once this threat of the pandemic is over. And you can all imagine that might be very difficult to establish if it's not part of the beginning. So I wanted to create this installation, and it's basically a projection of 3 screens, which are projected, or like 3 projections on empty newspaper sheets. The first one, it's a video animation showcasing basically a very slow transition over Cloudflare. And I don't know if you can see it in the detail, but the clouds within the font move basically in an opposite direction of the rain camera view, showing us, that the direction we are going doesn't seem to be aligned. The second stream is basically my news entry. It's an endless feed of all these hundreds of articles defining what the normal is, or where the normalcy seems to be headed for. And then the center screen is some sort of animation of my let's say, worst or most profound headlines, which rotate in some sort of like slideshow. And the way you see it now, like this new normal installation will have 2 components. What I show you here is kind of like the passive side to it, which could be exhibited, and which is really more towards raising the awareness. And then there's going to be an active component, which I'm working on, which will allow you to browse basically all these entries, and maybe even have the opportunity to add new ones, or some sort of vote for the most disturbing ones to influence where this installation is going. So this is an ongoing project, and I think, as we're seeking to end this different state we are in, I thought it's just interesting to observe and to kind of document what is happening at the same time as some governments and organizations seem to be taking advantage of introducing maybe some sort of much more grave surveillance or measures which are required, and that are not introducing at the same time a possible end to them. So this is what I wanted to present to you today, and if you have some questions, I'm happy to answer them.